but you're still looking at your dream, reviewing it every day and saying to yourself, it's not over until I win.
If you want to be successful tomorrow, it's impossible. If you want to be successful a year later, it's impossible. But if you want to win 10 years later, you have a chance.
There we go. Welcome, everybody, to Dollars and Cents Podcast. I did it right this time. I'm your host, Jeff, and we have Sam here with us once again, our co-host with the most. Vera's dealing with, I don't want to put all her business out there, but Vera is dealing with an illness, so she is going to be out for a little bit, but she is coming eventually. She's assured me. So, Sam, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Jeff. How are you?
Oh, you know, I can never complain. I never complain.
Today was a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Yeah, it always, you know, that's the beauty of living where we live. Both of us. What's the coldest it gets is like 65.
Yeah. Not even here. Here it's like the coldest I think is 70. If that.
And that's December and January.
Yeah. It's summertime here.
Yeah. But today we're going to be doing, well, I had a plan and Sam was like, well, let's start different. We're going to be talking about, because actually I like your plan better than mine. We're going to be talking about starting up your own work for yourself kind of thing. What sole proprietorship. And the pitfalls and the what makes it easy, what makes it hard, and what do you need to do. So, you know, as you know, oh, and I forgot to share this out. So Sam, when you're starting a sole proprietorship or want to work for yourself as a 1099 employee, wherever you go, a consultant, as it were, what are the first things you need to do or look into?
Well, you can use your own Social Security number as a sole proprietor. So if you end up just, you know, working for, you know, you're working for yourself in a contracting position, you know, it doesn't matter if it's, it could be on, I forgot that website that's called. We actually use it too. But, you know, if you're doing a job, whatever job, you know, at the end of the year, you'll get a 1099 that can go associated with your Social Security. There are some people who decide, you know what, I want to get an LLC where, you know, nobody knows my Social Security. I have my own individual EIN number for the business. And so they can go that way as a sole proprietor. You know, depending how you file your taxes, you either file your taxes with your own Social Security, or if you have that LLC, you can file it through that LLC. Okay,
so what exactly, what would one need to go about to get an LLC? I know you have one. I'm in the process, but I'm not actually doing it because Vera's mom's doing it for me.
So I actually use, you know, there are many different places that you can actually, like, they'll do it for you. I use, I think they actually just changed their name now. It used to be InkFile, now they call it Busy. And so I went through InkFile. They make it super easy where they get your articles of incorporation, they'll get your EIN set up, which, you know, getting an EIN, you can just go onto the IRS website and get that done too. You'll get it like instantly. And you know, you just need to have a business name to be associated with it. So again, you know, if you're going to go that route, I would think of some sort of business name that you know you want to be able to keep. And so the articles of incorporation, EIN number, and then you know, I think that's the statement of organization they get you, business licensing, and then they'll ask you if you want to open up a business bank account, but that's also easy too. You can just go to whatever bank that you use and do it online. They'll open that up. They will ask you for this information. A lot of places they do ask for your articles of organization and a copy of your EIN in order to open up a business checking account. So, but yeah, I went on to what was called now Busy, but it used to be Inkfile, and they made it super easy. It does take a couple of days. It's not instant.
Right. Yeah. It takes. I assuming it takes. I was always assuming it would take like a month or so. Correct.
I think it just depends on each state, and also
Okay.
if expedite the process. And so, I decided to expedite the process because at that time I was in the United States, because I was still living in Panama. So I was in the United States at the time, and so I wanted to get all of that organized because I wasn't sure with the bank information if I need to go in person or not. And so I didn't even have to. I could just do it online, which I finally realized. But yeah, I did everything, online, and it was super easy, super easy. Some states, again, when I talked about the last podcast, I did Wyoming because it doesn't have any state taxes, and
Right.
I want to eliminate the state taxes. But you can open one in any state that you choose. Each state has a different rule and the regulations. So
And from my understanding, it's kind of inexpensive. It's I've heard as high as $500 and as less as 150 or 100 or 90.
yeah, again, it depends on the state that you're in. I think it also depends on the industry that you're in. Some industries,
Okay.
require more documents, and then also the industry that you're in. I lost my train of thought, but there is something else, and I can't remember it. I'll get back to you on that.
It's hard to do this on the fly,
Yeah.
because just like Nonsensical Nonsense, we plan nothing. It's like today I thought about,
didn't
wait, we
know
got a
what we're
show tonight.
talking
What are we
about
gonna do about it?
5 minutes ago.
Exactly, yeah. And I do need to get better on, like, tomorrow I need to email you and be like, okay, so next week we're going to talk about this. So do a little bit of research just in case.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah. Let me be a little bit more prepared.
yeah. And I think we'll both get better at that. So when you're sole proprietor or working for yourself or self-contracting out to companies, what are the benefits for yourself versus the benefits for the company that you're working for?
Well, for the company, they don't need to. If you are a W-2, right? If you are an employee, right? They will be in charge of taking out the taxes from your paycheck, right? So you'll have a gross pay. They'll take out all the taxes, and then you'll have your net pay, and that's what they'll send over to you.
Yeah, that
As
FICA guy comes after you.
and then
I don't know who the fuck FICA is, but he likes me.
and then as an employee too, you can't write off things, right? Because really
Okay.
it's going under the company's expense. So like, let's say if you're going over to a meeting, that's going to be a company expense with them. So that's going to be their write-off, not your write-off. So if you have your own business or you're a sole proprietor, there are many advantages to that you can write off things. So like, for example, for me, I can, I have my own home office. So I can actually, depending upon the square footage of what I use, I can write that off. If I get a computer, I can write that off. Anything that I use in order to do my business, I can pretty much write off. If I have any travel expenses that, has to do with business, I can write that off too. So there's a lot of advantages in being able to write those things off, where if you're an employee, you do not have that ability.
Right. And so I wonder if I could write off my cigarettes. I'm just saying, but 'cause I need that, believe it or not. And I've explained this to the wife. Saves lives. Maybe not mine, but everybody else on the planet.
I don't think they'll allow you to do that, but you
I'm
never
sure I can
know. Maybe
figure it
put
out.
Genius.
No, you can't write off a co-host, Chris. Glick says, "Can I write up co-hosts and use them as a defendant?" Asking for a friend.
For a friend.
He
Unfortunately
says,
not.
what kind of host doesn't plan ahead? This guy should be fired. Yeah, well, as someone infamous, not famous, infamous once said, "It's my show and I do everything." So, what kind of businesses could you? I mean, you can't become a 1099 employee at McDonald's, let's say, but
No.
I recently just found out, and it kind of blew my mind, that most doctors are 1099.
Yes.
That kind of blew my mind. I always thought they were W-2.
No, they're a lot of them are 1099s, or they end up having their own corporation or LLC, like the same thing, or sole proprietor. Yeah, because it depends what type of field you're in. Like if who does the when you get anesthesias or no
Anesthesiologist.
anesthesiologists. Yeah, they end up getting.
Chris, he says, sounds like a wise man, a great champion. Those words. Yeah, it wasn't. It was the fool wearing a hat with bells on them and a silly belt.
But they're contracted with different hospitals, and so that's why they end up being 1099s.
Right.
Maybe Monday, Wednesday, and Friday they're at one hospital, and Tuesday and
right,
Thursday
so they
they're
could
at another hospital.
That's why they're able to be like, oh, I'm calling in a specialist from what enter hospital here. I guess that does make sense. So just like, and 1099, to dumb it down, and correct me if I'm wrong, you literally just get all your money and then you have to figure out taxes. And
correct.
The beauty of working where we work comes down to, I just ask Vera to do mine, because she's way smarter than me. And she was
she's
CPA.
a numbers person.
Well, she's a
numbers.
Yeah,
that girl is like a human calculator.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I wish I could. I can't count to 11 without taking my shoes off. So, but so what? Once you have your 1099 or your sole proprietorship set up, you can actually contract yourself out. And of course, once again, depending on your field, a lot of 1099 people are construction as well. No. I've heard that.
You don't really need to you could start today as a 1099 if you just right. You don't need to have a piece of paper saying that you're a 1099. It's basically right. saying, hey, you know what, you're paying me for a service, and I am not an official employee. So
right.
You're contracted. You get a housekeeper. A housekeeper could be like, okay, charge me $30. Well, here in Panama it's 30. Over in the States it's like 120. But yeah. You could say, hey, I'm cleaning your house, and I'm going to charge you $125. And so that person, the housekeeper, is probably a 1099 because she's doing it herself. She's going from house to house. She's created her own business, and therefore she's an independent contractor. She does her own thing. So doesn't need any other paperwork, unless how she wants to handle it on the back end is different. But yeah, anybody could be a 1099.
And as a 1099, if you do your own taxes, which I can't even spell taxes, but what percentage should you hold back from each payment to actually put
at least 20 to 25% of your income? Okay. You should hold back. When you do end up doing your taxes, they tell you like throughout the year, every quarter you should be paying the IRS. So it's like you should at least save about 20 to 25% of your income and save that over to taxes. And then each quarter you're supposed to pay a estimated amount. And so when you do your taxes, you'll know like, okay, I paid X amount of money each quarter. And so then when they do your taxes, they'll know if you owe or if they owe you back.
Okay. So there is the chance of actually getting some money back. And of course, you can always, like what I did was I actually put away 30%
Yeah.
because you know,
The more
and
the
basically,
merrier, I think.
well, and the beauty of that is you know, you put that in a high yield savings account,
Mhm.
and you know, you might actually coming out ahead.
Yeah.
Where you know,
Although,
maybe not necessarily ahead, but you'll come out with like, oh wow, I got an extra $5,000, $10,000 lying around that I didn't know about.
well,
Um,
what kind of high yield savings?
well, I'm just saying, well, you know, throughout the year, if you're putting 30%, let's say, you know, you're putting in $1,000 each week or $500 or whatever the case may be, you know, and that 20% that you're actually paying out is only comes up to, let's say, 10 grand, but you have 20 grand in there. You got an extra 10 grand lying around.
Yeah,
And,
but they
and
do.
that's before write-offs, so do, right?
Yeah, but the IRS does expect you to pay those, pay ahead each
Mhm.
quarter. So it's like really, if you're going to be gaining that type of money to put towards it's only going to be 3 months.
Okay.
So
Right. Well,
if you do it that
I
way,
guess you wouldn't
I
have a
mean,
big payout, but might get a
if
couple
you
$100, you know.
if you wait until the end of the year, which some people do, right? You can not pay it quarterly and just wait in the end of the year, but the IRS will charge you interest. They will
Oh,
charge
I
you
see. I see.
a penalty for not paying it during previous quarters.
So, and I forgot what I was going to say just now.
It's been happening a lot this evening.
Yeah, it's you know, the only problem about working all day and then doing something where we have to think is just it's a problem, but it's a problem we're willing to deal with. So you with paying that out each quarter, um, where do you find said write-offs? I mean, like
When you do your
I
taxes. So at the end
right,
of the year, right? It's tax season. About the end of January, beginning of February, all the companies that you ended up working with, or if that you read, like, so with us, we will get a 1099 from the company. Um, it's probably coming soon. I think I actually received mine. I've been
I
just
haven't got
collecting
mine
it.
yet.
So, for me, like I worked, in insurance. So, I'll get a 1099 for the insurance company that I work for because I do get commissions from there. With this company, I'll get a 1099. And so they'll start sending that out at the end of January. And same if you have any investments, if you have student loan interests, even your bank and savings, your savings account or checking account, if you earn interest from there, they'll send you a 1099 if it reaches a certain threshold. So at that point, you're going to start collecting your 1099s. And then once you receive all your 1099s, you start doing your taxes, right? And then from there, you'll be able to see, okay, how much, I don't know if anybody uses QuickBooks, like I use QuickBooks. I always itemize every expense that I have, and I log it to see, okay, what category does it go to? Is it a personal expense? Is it business expense? Is it utilities? Is it phone? Is it internet? You kind of categorize those things down. If you hired somebody to do work, like I had an assistant last year, so I consider her labor, a labor contractor, so she's a write-off. So I can like itemize those things down, and then you total it up, and then you know exactly how much expenses did you have. There's other expenses too, like health insurance, if you have insurance for your business, licensing, like I have a California insurance license that I keep up. And so
Right.
any education that I have with that I pay for, for my CE credits, that could be a write-off too. So, because that's, pertaining to your business. When I travel to the US for business, I can write off, the travel expenses on there, any meals that I had, car rental, taxi, flight, hotel, so those can be a write-off as well. So,
As
but
somebody that works from home, how much
mhm.
of your utilities can you write off though?
So if you are using, I mean, I do 50/50 because half the time I'm working, half the time I'm watching TV. So you could split it. Sometimes you can, if you only think that you're using 30%,
Right.
let's maybe if you have a family or something like that, then maybe you're not using all of it. So it really just thinks that the percentage that you think that you're using, but you could split it by percentage.
Oh, I see. Okay. So if and you, as you said, you don't necessarily need an LLC or a sole proprietorship or a C corp or B corp or whatever to actually start a business. You do need a business license, correct?
No, you don't need to have a business license. Again, a
Oh, see, I didn't
1099,
know
you
that.
don't need to have. You could just,
But like if I
as
wanted to
long as you're
start, let's
doing a
say
service
a
and
lawn
making
care
money off of
business.
it. Hmm?
Okay, so if I wanted to do like a lawn care business, I don't need a business license. I just need to
A lot. Nope. Well,
1099 everything.
you could 1099 everything. I mean, you could go both ways, but you can really, if you decide, hey, I'm going to mow a lawn and I'm going to charge you X amount of dollars, and you collect that. Of course, you're going to have to show that income. I think in the U.S. it's 600. You have to show. You have to pay your taxes if you've earned over $600 in the year.
In the year.
In the
Okay.
year.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So, because I heard it was as high as like if you made less than 10,000.
Okay, so maybe yeah.
I honestly don't know, and because my first year working as a 1099, technically I started in November, so I didn't make a whole lot, but it was less than 10 grand. And when I asked Vera about it, I was like, hey, how do I handle tax on this? She's like, you made under X amount, you don't have to pay. I'm like, hey,
yeah, they
can we
said
just
to file taxes with a 1099 form, self-employed individuals need to make over $400 in earned income a year. So it's actually $400.
Okay.
Not
so $400. But
Mhm.
I like if you make $500, I doubt the IRS is going to come after you for making for taxes on that. But you never know. They could be spiteful. I mean, let's be honest. Interesting. So if you wanted to start a business, and we kind of touched on this before we started, and I know you said you haven't done it since college, but if you wanted to start a business, and whatever said business is, well, obviously there's all sorts of niches, and you didn't want to do everything yourself. You wanted to actually have employees, a traditional business, as it were.
Mhm.
And I kind of want to get into the whole business planning. What are the main things you need before you actually start hiring people? Obviously, you're going to need income and enough work to keep everybody busy. But what else would you need besides those things?
Well, definitely need to start with a business plan, right? Because you want to be able to have some sort of structure or roadmap. So, and the business plan would contain like having, exactly what is your business, right?
Right.
How do you think that you're going to be being able to, get customers or get people to want to get your business? How do you want to be able to grow? Maybe put a 5, 10, 20-year plan down the line to say, okay, what markings are we going to be able to hit? How much is it going to cost you, in order to run this business? So pretty much creating, what's your, gross profit, and then, after all these expenses that it's going to cost you in order to run the business, what your net profit's going to be afterwards. So, you'll do a profit and loss. And see, do you need to have employees? Where is the location going to be? If it's brick and mortar, how are you going to take payments? Getting a business bank account online. What is it that you need to invest in? How much is going to cost you to invest in stuff? So, like, for example, like, I don't know, let's say you open up a restaurant, right? You're going to need to have a stove, a refrigerator, I don't know if you need a bar, you need,
Right.
the food, the utilities, like, dishes. You need all these things. So there's going to be a lot of expenses. Of course, what kind of money do you have in order to be able to pay all of this first? And then, possibly a lot of people will need to get a loan in order to, start up the business, and then see how they're going to do in order, when are they going to be able
Or
to
even
make
find
profit?
investors or whatnot.
Yeah. And then it comes down to like how long you're going to pay off the loan or the investors, how long is it going to take you before you're actually not in the red, but in the clear, right? You're in the black.
Right.
So yeah, you have to put a business plan first because you need to kind of have that all, I mean, it's not going to go 100% according to plan, but at least you have to have a roadmap for you have
Some
to know
sort of
where you
roadmap.
are right now. Where do you want to go?
As Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. I just found that real quick. But, so obviously you're setting up a plan. Should that be when you're doing a business plan? And I've never seen one. I've never made one. Is that like, are you writing a little short story? Are you itemizing, a Venn diagram or
Again, like when I did a bunch of business plans when I was in college and university. Strangely enough, like the college that I went to a couple of colleges, and then I ended up I got several degrees. But like, I went over to my first college was over in Vermont, and so Ben and Jerry's is over there, right? So we were very
Right.
close to the Ben and Jerry's Corporation. They actually came in, gave us a bunch of free ice cream, and
I was going
showed
to say
their
that's the
business
freshman
plan.
15 right there.
Yeah, and they yeah, exactly. And they showed us their business plan. Now, business plans could be, you're probably going to be just writing the basics, like, where you want, how you want the business to be, what's the structure of the business, the profit and loss, just the whole how you're investing stuff, items that you need, etc. Right? So it could be very, couple of pages, right? If you're going to just be very simple. But when I saw Ben and Jerry's, they were like, it was this thick.
It's a small book.
Yeah, it was a small book. It literally was I mean, it was a colorful book, but it did show A to Z, like, how many stores they wanted to have, what locations did they want to go
Oh, so they
international.
planned years ahead.
Well, that changes over time, right? So as the business grows, your business plan is going to change
I
probably,
see.
right? Like maybe you could be like a small business, mom and pop business. Some mom and pop businesses don't even put a plan unless you need to get a loan. Normally, if you're going to go to
Right.
the bank, they're going to ask you for a business plan. But for the most part, like probably going to be really small. But let's say you're like, you know what? I want to turn into a chain. Like maybe I want to have, my, Sam grocery store on like every corner, in New Jersey, and then go to the tri-state, and then hey, let me try the West Coast now. So
Walmart.
that's going to change. Good example is In and Out. In and Out over in California is huge, and that's still family owned. That's not
Is it
a
really?
yeah, it's a family owned business. And so, they branched out into Vegas, but for a long time they were in California. And and their business model, right? Everybody wears the same uniform. There's only there are three options, right? You don't know the secret ordering thing unless like you hear from somebody else, right?
Right.
So you want a protein burger. So like they've created that marketing lingo. Every place looks the same. Right? So that's going to be part of your business plan. So and I'm pretty
So
sure that changes over
you want to
time.
go as detailed as possible on your, even if you're doing mom and pop or you're doing, if you want to be, I want to open up, 500 employee business, you want to go as detailed as possible when it comes to things like like you said, the uniforms, the way you greet the customers, depending on if you're, manufacturing versus customer service.
But you're going from like, that was an example of what was a small business that grew out into a
Right.
big business. And so, of course, that changes over time. But it
Right.
could
So
just be
it's
simple
not
as
holy
what is your
writ.
vision?
Right. It's not holy writ. It's mostly a guideline that is ever changing.
Yeah, correct. And
Okay.
the basis of that business plan is really what is the vision for the business, right? Like what type of business are you having? What's the vision? And then you go from the details. It's like really working like the overall big picture and then actually working down to go to the details of, how you're going to be able to get there. That's why they call it the
Okay.
roadmap.
And then when you start to expand, you start to let well, my brain shut off again. The one thing about that everyone needs to understand about business, and this is something that I've learned for a long time. You look at somebody like Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos' his business is massive, and he makes millions and millions of dollars. However, the first 6-8 months, he was by himself, and huge risk. He did not work for that 6-8 months, and he was probably losing money.
Oh yeah, most businesses don't make a profit until I think it's like the 7th or 8th year is when they start making a profit. So it's like that's why you have to have that 5, 10, 20 year, vision of where it's going to be, because a lot of startups, they're not making money in the first 5 to 7 years.
Oof.
It's going to be a loss.
But and that's the one thing that you have to mentally prepare yourself for that. And it's cliche to be like, oh, look at somebody like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, they got money falling out their ass. Well, yeah, but for that first 5, 7, 10 years, they were going, well, I'm sleeping in the office today because I don't have a house, I don't have a place to live, I'm eating ramen every day. But your employee, because even if your business folds, the times that your employees work, you still have to pay those.
Yeah.
There's no getting out of that. Bankruptcy does not cover that.
Right. And that's why, it's always good to do that profit and loss, right? Because you're going to do, what kind of profit are you aiming at? How much is it going to cost you? How many employees do you need? What type of pay is that? So you have to do the profit. You have to see what the expenses are. I mean, I know a lot of owners, business owners in the beginning, if they do need to have, several employees to begin, or, need to have, a group of people working for them in order to be able to run their business. I mean, a lot of business owners, they don't pay themselves for several years. It's all going back to the business.
And whether it be advertising or just like, hey, we need new pencils, because every expense ends up on your plate as the owner. And we got about 30 minutes left, so I wanted to kind of play a little scenario game with you. If you could open a business tomorrow, or start opening a business, or start planning to open a business, what would be your ideal, I want to open this?
Oh, do you know what? I think honestly, I would like to have a simple business where I did not have to run it. I'd actually like to buy somebody's business, somebody who's already established and maybe just wants to retire and doesn't have anybody to give their business to. I would like to buy that business. So even if it's as simple as like a car wash, because if I knew some guy who was working over at the car wash and pretty much ran it and knew exactly what needed to be done to run a car wash, and he still wants to do the same thing and he didn't have the funds to buy it, I would like to buy that business if I have the funds to do it.
Make that person like CEO or something.
Yeah, and then they can have a little stake in the business, and then we can both make money. I mean, car washes, you think about it, it's like water, right? The power is not on every hour unless it's 24/7, right? And you just have some soap. You have maybe some things that you have in the store, like fresheners and whatnot. But it seems to it doesn't need to even be that big.
Actually, I saw a video today. A guy he owns the self-service car wash. He owns one of those, and he says each one of those bays makes about $16,000 a month.
Yeah.
After expenses, and that's profit line. And the one he was looking at buying, they wanted $1 million for, and he was, he did the math, and he's like, yeah, you would be even if you drop the $1 million tomorrow, you're at a loss for 10 years because you got to pay back that $1 million. And the one he was looking at, he said all this stuff needs upgraded, and this is broken, that's broken. So I understand what you're saying. That actually makes sense. Would you? What about? No, go ahead.
There's different ways. So if you buy a business, right, there are different ways. And I don't know all of them, but I know there's, you don't have to say, okay, I have $1 million. Here you go. I'm buying your business. I mean, if you have $1 million to do that, that's freaking fantastic. But you can also, there's some people who, you say, hey, I want to buy your business, but I don't have the money right now. How about this? Let's make an agreement where if, I hit this certain milestone, then, I can pay you this much. So like you can go on increments and say, okay, I'm going to, whatever profit that the business has, I'll give you a certain percent until my loan is paid off in buying the business. Or you could say, I can hit a certain milestone. Say, if I don't reach this milestone, then you know what, I owe you X amount or have a penalty to the person that you bought it from. So there's different ways in order to buy businesses. You don't necessarily need to have the funds.
Yeah, there's always, of course, loans as well. What about a franchise? A lot of franchises, like, I heard McDonald's, it's like $1 million to open up a franchise. But I've also heard like Chick-fil-A is only like 30 grand.
Well, McDonald's, is kind of, they're not really fast food. They're more like real estate.
Oh yeah, they're definitely a real estate company. Yeah,
they're a real estate company for sure. And that's why they've become so successful, because they've used that business model to do it. And they also, again, they have a whole structure. Every McDonald's is set up the same, in the back of the McDonald's. So they have a huge structure. Whereas Chick-fil-A, I think with a lot of, I think with a lot of them, it just really depends upon the, how to vet. Like, I think for Chick-fil-A, like, you have to be vetted in like 5 years.
You have to work there a certain amount of time first, too.
Yeah, like you have to be vetted in. So I think it's like you can't just get a Chick-fil-A. Like you have to go there for 5 years. I think there's certain standards that they actually require, to, be upon. Like if you don't meet those standards, then they're not going to give you a Chick-fil-A at all. Like, so
well, and like a friend of mine in high school, when she turned 18 and she was graduating high school, I actually dated her for a while, and her parents asked her, what do you want for your graduation? You want a new car? She's like, no, I want a Subway. And they bought her a Subway franchise.
No way.
She works at it to this day. I don't remember exactly what it was, but she now has 9.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
And it's like, the reason why I think she picked that was because at the time she was working at a Subway. And so there is with any business you want to open or work for, or even a job you want to do, you got to have in order to be quote unquote happy in life, you got to have a minimal amount of passion for what you're doing. Like you can't be like, I'm going to open up a McDonald's, and then 20 minutes later after you've opened it, you're like, I fucking hate McDonald's, because you will be miserable. So, the passion has to be there, the joy, the wanting to do something. Like myself, if I could open up a business tomorrow or start opening, I would love to do manufacturing of something. Of course I do want to open a bar, but once again, I don't want to run it like you. I want to purchase one, or it'd be like, one of my favorite lines, and I'll get flack for it from the weirdos, lefties, but Donald Trump once said, you hire the best, but you never trust them. You find somebody that is good at what they do and say, I want you to work for me, make my business, and then you can sit back and relax. I mean, there's still minute
Well,
things you need to take care of,
there's
but
still more to it because if you own a business, right, you want to know exactly what the business
right,
does, right? So, and that's what, my idea of getting somebody who's already worked in the business because they can teach me how that business would be. I would even go
or how,
to,
even how to improve it.
yeah, I would even if like let's say I was interested in I don't know like a mailbox etc. And like so what it's a post office like you
Yeah,
send out shipments you get a bunch of boxes I would actually go over to somebody like that and be like hey how the hell do you run this business and maybe pay them to be able to kind of get like an apprenticeship like how much does this thing, so I'll be able to ask those questions like how much for supplies how much are you leasing for this place what are the things that I need to have are there things that I'm not thinking about that I should consider so like postage stuff machinery
right.
whatever so like security so
Yeah.
if it's good to be able to ask those questions for someone who's already done the business so this
Mhm.
way you're not figuring it out yourself and wasting time
And
and
yeah, and
having to go through those
wasting
mistakes
funds as well. Yeah. Well,
hmm
even though you learn from mistakes, you want to make as little as possible. Um, actually, uh, I believe, and I could be wrong, but I thought Dave and Vera own a tattoo shop.
yeah, it was a tattoo shop and also a bike,
Well, yeah, they have
motorcycle.
the custom
Yeah,
motorcycles.
custom
Um,
motorcycles. Yeah.
that's actually coming to YouTube soon. I just built the intro video.
hmm
Um, but the, you definitely want to look at something like for myself. I think I would love to own a tattoo studio. Not only do would I get free tattoos, but
hmm
I've worked in them. I've seen the profit margin. I've seen the equipment is not really crazy expensive. The cleanliness is the hard part of any tattoo shop.
hmm
Um, the
I don't
you
have
know
any
the,
tattoos, so I've never been.
oh, it's Chris mentioned on when he got his, he felt no pain, and I don't believe him for a second. I'm sure he has a high pain tolerance, as he says, but holy hell, it's a pain like no other. Um, but like the one thing you want to be a patron of your own business as well,
But yeah,
because the one guy I knew, a guy, he owned a tattoo bodybuilding shop. Dude had no piercings and no tattoos. And people would ask him,
really.
"Does it hurt?" They'd ask him, "Does it hurt?" And he's like, "No." And they're like, and I would look at him and go, "How the hell would you know?" You know?
I know. So what made him go into that business to begin with? Was it because of the profit
the
margins that
the
he was
profit
seeing,
margin,
or
the profit margins are huge
so was
because
he a partner or did he
no, he
100% own
owned
it?
it. He owned it, and then he hired a bunch of tattoo artists that are 1099 employees. I know because I worked for it. And like, the thing is with a tattoo costs in material at about maybe $12.
hmm
It's mostly time. So you're not paying for the tattoo, you're paying for the artist's time. And
Right.
the higher quality they are, and like my smallest tattoo took 45 minutes. My largest tattoo took like 12 hours.
So question,
Yeah.
because now that you bring so it's kind of tying all this in from what we began. Just like beauty salons, I would assume tattoo salons are the same, where they have 1099s who actually rent the seat of the tattoo place and give part of
Yeah.
that. The
Well,
renting
it's not
is
even,
basically
they're not even renting. It's more, I like to joke that a tattoo parlor is more of a hang for the
okay.
tattoo artists. As you'll of course you'll get people come in and say, "Hey, my buddy got a tattoo from Bob over here," and Jim's sitting over here going, "Oh, we got nothing to do today." You'll get walk-ins. Well, Jim will get the walk-ins that day, and
hmm
the other person, Bob, is sitting there. He's got appointments because people he's tattooed said, "Oh, you need to go see Bob. Go see Bob. Go see Bob." So they obviously there's no hourly wage. The main part of a tattoo artist's job is to make sure the area is clean. But that's what you have apprentices for. Apprentices, when you're learning to tattoo, you actually pay the artist to hang out, and they teach you things. So, you watch. They give you a fake skin to tattoo with. Apprenticeships are the greatest scam on the history of the planet. Yes, Jim and Bob, the tattoo artists. Yeah, that's what I'm going to call my tattoo studio, Jim and Bob's.
Do they buy their? Does each tattoo artist buy their own equipment, or are they actually? Or is the business owner doing the equipment? Like, does it matter?
The business owner would usually buy like the inks and like it sounds funny, but every tattoo artist uses Vaseline or some sort of gel. Like you take a tongue depressor and you put a little Vaseline on it, and then you set the little bitty cups that hold the ink. And that way they don't fall over, and you got them there and they don't move. And then, of course, most tattoo artists will buy their own gun. The tattoo gun, my tattoo artist, he's got like 9 different ones, because he's, the old style one that he has is so loud. If he turns it on right now, I can hear it from 5 miles away. The new one that when he did my forearm recently, less than a couple months ago, or like less than 6 months ago, that thing's so quiet. I didn't know it was on until he started stabbing me with it. But the biggest expense when it comes to a tattoo studio comes down to like an autoclave to sterilize your. It sounds funny, but a lot of tattoo studios buy gynecological chairs because it's a bed that can be folded up and cleaned really easily, because they have a metal base, and then the leather, you can actually go get a really nice heavy duty table and have it wrapped in leather with cushioning in it, so that it almost like a massage table, so it can be sterilized. And then, of course, Saran wrap is key to every tattoo. Even if you have a stand where I'm setting my arm so he can work on my arm, underneath it is the stand, and in between the stand and my arm is Saran wrap.
Right. And so is the business owner responsible getting all that stuff? Or again, is it tattoo artist?
I think things like the Saran wrap, the inks are, it could be a 50-50 thing with inks. Mostly the business owner takes care of, the big things, the chairs, the printers, all that fun stuff. The artists, right? The artists some of them like certain brands of needles, or some like certain brands of guns. They take care of those things. They make sure everything's sterilized. The expense comes in for the owner of the rental of the location, or owning the location. And then you hire your artists come in, and the first couple days, everybody just cleans like crazy. When we opened up Project X here, Project X was a tattoo studio I worked for here. Day one, all we did was clean. And then we came in and said, okay, now let's bring in the autoclave. Okay, let's clean the autoclave. Now let's bring in the chair. Let's clean the chair. Yes, if you have a cling film fetish, 100%, it is the place to be. But the expense is usually the building, but you'll get tattoo artists that will. The one guy, he did body piercing tattoo. The guy that I actually first hired me ever to apprentice on body piercing was he showed up day one in a Ferrari, and he's head to toe tattoos. I'm like, how did you get a Ferrari? And then day one, some lady comes in, and in a 4-hour session, she spent $9,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
you know, like I said, the total cost of the tattoo was maybe $100 with Second Skin. Second Skin is it's the old model. When you get a tattoo, they wrap it in cellophane until it starts to scab over. The new thing is they have this stuff called Second Skin, where it's almost like a it's like saran wrap with tape on one side, but it covers the whole thing and seals it and all that fun stuff. Second Skin is inexpensive, but you need a lot of it. You know, depending on size of tattoos, it can be cut and whatnot. Those things the owner of the shop would actually have or purchase or have on order at all the time. But like I said, 4 hours, the guy made $9,000. Now, even if 50% of that goes to the shop for booth rent or whatever, that's a big one, you know.
Yeah.
Where
That's
barber
actually
shop,
interesting to hear about the tattoo shops. I didn't even
Well,
think about it.
barber shops, it's kind of the same concept. Your barber, like if you go into like the movie Barber Shop with Ice Cube, each barber has their own equipment and they rent the booth. In the booth is a mirror, a little bitty table, and a chair. Everything else you put there, that's your stuff. You know, your clippers, your things. However, what I've learned, and only because I talked to a friend of mine that has I dated a lot of girls that took cosmetology in building trades or in the career center that I went to. A lot of the money that's made at a barbershop is in products. Like you get your hair done, and then you got a rack of Vidal Sassoon over here. And you're like, to keep it silky smooth, we buy this, you know, and you know you hawk that stuff. There is money in the booth and booth rent, but it's not a ton. You're not pulling up in a Bentley in 6 months. You know, the hardest part of the best way to open up, let's say, a tattoo shop, which is one of the things I've looked into, is buy the location. At the very least, everything goes to shit, you can sell the building. But if you buy the building and you get decent artists in there, and a lot of people, what they'll do when they hire a tattoo artist is they'll get your soul glow on. Yeah, you saw where I was going with that, lady. A lot of the things that they'll do is they'll be like, okay, you're going to do a tattoo on my cousin or, you know, whoever. And it's going to be the design he wants. You change it however you want. It's going to cost him nothing. It's going to cost you your time. I'll pay for all the equipment, you know, and you can judge that artist on his work. Like there are tattoo artists that only like to work in black and gray.
Right.
I'm not a black and gray guy. I have one black and gray tattoo, and it's a word in Japanese, and it's my daughter.
Oh, really?
It's my daughter's. I don't even think it's Japanese. I can't remember what it is, but it's my daughter's name. I found a website that you put in a name and it gives you the spelling in Japanese.
In kanji?
Yeah, I believe so.
Hiragana? Okay.
Can't really see it. There it is.
Oh, I see it. Okay, yeah. That looks Japanese. Yeah.
I don't
looks
know.
like it's hiragana.
I just but all my tattoos have color. You know, all Tanya's tattoos. Tanya's got a dragon on her leg. That's the dragon from Dragon Ball Z, because she's a giant nerd. The girl that did that, she has the heaviest hand, and I'll explain what heavy hand means in a second, but it is flawless. But it's also her most expensive tattoo. And heavy hand is like the guy that did my forearm, and you can't really see it. My forearm is a bear in the woods with a little wolf, a clock, and a rose for my grandmother. The lightest hand I've ever felt. Like he did my cardinal, and the whole time, God damn, dude, you're hitting bone, brother. But when he did this one, it was like, oh, you're fucking done with the bear head already? Okay. There are certain parts of the body that hurt so much. Like when I got my ribs done, I have a Winnie the Pooh losing a balloon for my sister when she passed.
How many tattoos do you have?
3 on my back, 1 on each forearm, my Winnie the Pooh, my daughter, my Superman logo, and my Deadpool and Harley Quinn. How many is that? Lost count.
I lost count.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9.
9. Wow.
And I have
Well,
plans for more. I'm constantly looking up tattoos.
Maybe that's also good for being part of a tattoo business, is because once the person gets one, they always want more.
Well,
So
tattoos are extremely addictive. But the beauty of it is like if you're a good tattoo artist and you do good work, like my dude Danny does amazing work. The design I had for this looked nothing the way this does. But when I got there, Danny's like, we could do your design, but it will wrap around to here and look weird. And I went, oh, I didn't think of that. He said, or if we do it the way you want it, in a spot where you can see the whole thing at once, it's going to be about that big. And I was like, but I want, the whole thing. And he's like, okay, let me try something. And he messed around with it. And what he came up with is way better than what I wanted. And a lot of people don't understand when you go to get a tattoo, you may say, I want this exact thing. The artist can do that, but they will never recommend it because you don't do tattoos every day. You don't see tattoos every day.
Right.
The way they do. So and
well, that's why they're the expert.
Exactly. And it's literally the least professional business, but extremely professional all in one. Like the cleanest people I've ever met are tattoo artists. Like OCD cleaning.
I think it is a professional business. I mean,
yeah. But they don't look. They're not showing up in a tie. Let me tell you.
But you know what? Nowadays, it's like I feel like as though I'm a minority now. I think the majority of people in the world now have tattoos. Where growing up, because I'm grandma compared to you, but tattoos were not as popular. Like most of people who had tattoos were musicians or artists, but pretty much everybody now I think has it. Tattoo, with the exception of me. Like I like
Ozzy Osbourne once said, if you want to be different, don't get a tattoo. Because they are mainstream now. And there's some of the designs. When you go into a tattoo studio, the first thing you want to do is ask your tattoo artist to see their flash. Every tattoo artist does this. As soon as they do a tattoo, they take a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next time you come in, they take another picture of the same tattoo they did a month ago, because they want to see how it turned out. When you first get it, it's swollen and whatnot. You don't have any either, Leggy? Leggy, what you need is
I found somebody else who doesn't have it?
Leggy needs a blackout so she can tone down her brightness of skin. She needs a permanent tan tattoo.
Excuse me.
But there's all sorts of different ways to do a tattoo. And though I actually saw there's a place, I can't remember what it is. It's a Polynesian island, I believe, where it's not. I don't think it's Polynesian. I think it's somewhere in like it's not Asia. It's like over where Everest is, all that stuff.
Okay.
And the only tattoo artists, tattoos are a big thing in the culture, blah blah blah. But the only people that can be tattoo artists are female. The males are not allowed to do tattoos. And they do with the stick and I don't know if you've ever seen it. It looks like a little hammer with needles on it, and they hit it with a stick.
Good.
And a single session will last like 12 hours. for a
12
small
hours?
tattoo. Yeah. And
You got to have a lot of patience to be 12 hours sitting there. I mean,
well,
I'm pretty sure they do it like in increments,
like
right? Like,
when right. Well, like for instance, when Danny does a tattoo on me, we'll do the outline, and then I'm like, okay, smoke break. And we go outside and smoke a cigarette, or we'll go down to the store and pick up a drink, because the one thing when you're getting a tattoo that you need, it sounds silly, but you want a little bit of sugar because you're bleeding.
wow.
The outline, then there's shading, then there's color. So it's like I have a Superman that is like this big on my back, and it is the traditional Superman. It's still not even done, or is it done? I don't remember. One of them is not done. I have 2 Superman on my back. I have a Precious Moments. You remember the Precious Moments dolls from Hallmark?
No.
They're statues that Hallmark stores sold, and they look like little kids in grown-up clothes.
Okay.
And a buddy of mine drew it, and my sister, when she had a tubal pregnancy, I drove her to the hospital, saved her life, according to her, and she's always called me Superman, and she loved Precious Moments dolls, so I have
The
a Precious Moments Superman that is literally a foot big by 8 inches.
Wow.
7 or 8 inches. And it is full done, full color, and hell on earth to get tattooed. Because it took, I have a traditional Superman that's roughly the same size, not as wide. It's just him standing in his pose. And that one took about 12 hours as well. But it's super detailed, colored, and shading. The shading hurts like a motherfucker. But you get close to the spine, and you're just like, I'm going to kill everyone in the room.
Well, Jeff, I feel like you said we've changed this podcast to the tattoo podcast.
I know. Well, that's we need to learn how to stay on course.
We got to prepare what the subject will be, not 5 minutes before the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, give me a couple of hours at least.
Yeah, that's my bad. No, but I think what like I said, the phrase of today that we learned, that when you're going to start a business, the phrase of today is, once again, if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it for this episode. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I know we kind of went off subject, which I'm sure we'll do multiple times, especially when Vera's on here and then Dave pops in. Because
then forget about it. It will just be a whole other podcast.
It'll be a whole new thing. But
I'm a lot more structured.
Well, and I want to say, Sam, thanks again for coming up and kind of giving us your opinion on and your expertise on starting a business, starting an LLC, or whatever the case may be, of how you want to go about bettering your life. Where you're, one of my favorite phrases, and I say it all the time, is no one ever got rich by working for a salary. And that's my vision, is I never want to work for a salary, because there's going to be hard times, but the good times are that much better when nobody could have done this but me.
Well, it's nice being your own boss.
Oh man, into that. Technically we have a boss, but not really. Vera, you want to get Vera mad? Call her boss. She gets so mad. I love it. Cracks me up. So that is it for tonight's show. Sam, did you think of an outro for yourself?
No, I have not. Hey!
Bye!
Bye!
So, once again, this is Dollars and Cents Podcast. And as always, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.